Good morning. I'm Jazmyn Strydom, and I'm here today with Leigh from 239 by Decor. So today we're going to be talking about efficiency by design, and I am very excited about this. I feel like there's a lot of good content. So welcome everybody, and we're going to start off with Leigh's presentation right away.
Great. Thanks, Jazmyn. So good morning and welcome to my webinar. Like Jazmyn said, it's entitled Efficiency by Design. And here's a quick look at our agenda. We're going to review some objectives, go through an introduction. We're going to look at 2-second lean, and then we'll have some areas and ideas for brainstorming, and we'll have some, for improvement, and then some questions and brainstorming at the end. So our objectives for today are to gain a clear understanding of the concepts and benefits of a lean mindset, to identify areas of waste in your job, and to explore ways to increase productivity and apply time-saving methods in your day-to-day tasks. As Jazmyn said, my name is Leigh Penner, and I'm a former teacher, and I started working at my dream job 8 years ago when I got on at 239 by Decor, which is Decor's showroom. And I'm a member of the National Kitchen and Bath Association, and I received my AKBD in 2019 and my CKBD in 2020. And I had the pleasure of accomplishing both those tasks alongside of Jazmyn here. So as I mentioned, there we go. I love working at Decor, and one of the things that I appreciate about this wonderful company is their dedication to continual improvement, both personally and professionally. So several years ago, the office staff at Decor were all encouraged to read 2-second lean, which is, this book, 2-second lean by Paul Akers. So in his book, Paul lists various benefits of adopting a lean culture, which include that the employees who use these ideas will feel more engaged in their work, and these employees will want to stay in their present employment. You'll see a reduction of waste. Employees will work together to come up with ideas on how to make improvements, and having less waste will equal an increase in revenue, and which all helps achieve a better work environment. So at its heart, the lean culture encourages you to fix what bugs you. And 2-second lean focuses on 3 steps. So step 1 is to learn the 8 categories of wastes, which are overproduction, transportation, inventory, defects, overprocessing, motion, waiting, and wasted potential. And step 2 is to eliminate the waste you see and make small, consistent changes, so 2-second improvements every day. And step 3 is to shoot a quick video. So these are made to share so that others can be inspired to find similar areas of waste in their jobs and then find ways to eliminate them.
Yeah, Leigh, did you ever take a look? Decor has a library, and it has all the different videos. So like you said, Decor really adopted that lean culture, and I think we have over 2,000 or 3,000 videos. Did you ever take a chance to look at the other ones at all?
Well, they were really great about emailing them out every week, and they kind of highlight 2 or 3 and it started off with production, which was kind of fun because you could see something that they came up with in the plant department or in the paint department or something. And my understanding is that they had time, like I think 45 minutes every Friday afternoon or something, and they could collaborate, come up with, lists of things that were bugging them, and then come up with creative ways to fix those things. And then they would make the videos. So, and then of course there were the ones that went on with the, in the office. So those ones I found a little more helpful just because it kind of more applied to my job. But it was always just very encouraging that like, hey, what's something that bugs me and how could I fix it?
I know, it blew my mind how creative people were. And I think anyone who's been to our plant or our facility, all the comments that we get is how clean it is, how bright, and how organized. Like almost every workstation is super organized, and it was just great to see people take the initiative of their workspace. And I think it kind of made them a lot happier, right? Like you are making your workspace for you. You're not just another cog in the machine, right? So it was a lot of people were really smart and inventive.
Definitely. So going back to the waste that we were talking about, I can't say that as a designer that I see each area of these wastes in my job, but I do know that motion is definitely one that comes up for me in an area where I can eliminate waste. So I had found something shortly after reading the book. I found something that bugged me, and I fixed it, and I shot a video of it to share. So we'll see if this works.
Press play.
Oh, what do I hit there? Nope. Oh, then it didn't go.
Go back.
Right?
There we go. There you go.
Okay. Is that working?
Maybe you can just describe your video.
Like leaving my lots of space to spread out, and I don't like it too cluttered. So I was keeping my stapler in my desk, but I found that just trying to think of how I can make things faster, I would have to root back here because it didn't fit here, and that was taking time. So now I've made myself a spot for it here on my desk. It's so it's not on my work area, it's right here beside my computer monitor, and I've even labeled it there. So now I always have a place where it can go, and it just saves a little bit of time when I need it. Thanks.
Okay.
Perfect. I love it. Your desk was always so neat and organized, at least at the end of the day.
And I was so pleased with having a designated place to store my stapler that I did the same thing with my cordless mouse. So we're going to be looking at ideas and we're going to be looking at areas and ideas for improvement. And once I was on the lookout for things that bugged me that I could fix, I noticed that I did have a lot of areas for improvement. So for this webinar, I've categorized them into 4 sections: desk organization, supplies and tools, design program, and forms. So looking at our estimates, contracts, calc sheets, etc. So let's start with desk organization. Now, I will admit that my desk is often a mess. I know Jazmyn said this, but I just have a lot of projects on the go, and you've got files out, and truth be told, I totally cleaned up my area before I shot that video. But to be efficient, I need to know where things are. So the reality of being a designer is that like I said, we often have lots of projects on the go, and we need to be able to access our files when needed. So when I first started at Decor, I was given some file folder holders that looked like this. And I was encouraged to use them to keep track of my files, but I struggled with them because I really wanted to keep them alphabetized, because that seemed like the correct way to store files. But I found that it was really hard to keep them organized that way. If a new file came in, things would have to be shuffled around, which was time consuming. And then as the number of projects grew and reached different areas of completion, it got even harder. And I know that some of my coworkers use them and like them. Hi, Brooklyn. But that didn't work well for me. So my solution was to have Decor build me a set of cuppies. These are 9 inches wide on the inside, so they don't crush the tops of my file folders when I slide them in. And I was able to make sections for my files so they get stored depending on where they are currently in the process. So they start off in to be designed, and then they move to either needs changes or needs contract. And from there, they go to be ordered, and then to be installed, and then either to needs service or to be handed in. So this works for me because if my installer calls with a question about a job he's installing, I can quickly find the file in my to be installed. And if I have a job sitting in to be ordered, I can flip through them and check to see if I've missed an email to sign them off or not.
This was great. I actually adopted this myself, and I found it was much easier because I worked on when I was designing, a lot of multifamily projects, so I'd have a lot of folders on the go, and this was much easier to categorize, to kind of know what you're working, and it actually didn't even feel as overwhelming, right? Because you're not seeing this big file folder. It just, you kind of know which section you need to work on. Mm-hmm. And then in our office, we almost always knew everybody's projects that were going on. So if the other person was on a job site measure or an office for that day, it was so much easier to find that file because you knew where it would be. So I loved it. I adopted it myself, and I found it. Also took that off our desks because you can see, like in the picture, you put it on your file folder. So it created a bit more of a better workspace.
Yep.
So,
yeah, it's not cluttering up the desk too. So other ideas for my desk include the fact that I have a designated spot for my day planner and my calculator, so I can find either one quickly when needed. And I don't keep anything extra on my desk that doesn't need to be there, except for a couple of potted plants, because those make me happy. So I also sorted my top drawer so that all my pens are together, my highlighters are together, and as well as my sticky notes. So when I'm reaching to grab one of them, they are quick to find. Which brings me to my next category, supplies and tools. While some of my supplies are used in the office, like pens, highlighters, and sticky notes, I also have supplies that I need to bring with me when I go and measure a client's home. So before reading 2-second lean, I would store these items in my desk, and then when I needed to leave on a measure, I would grab each of them and put them in a bag to take along. So either just sticking them in my purse or grabbing a different bag to put them in. After reading the book, I decided that a good solution would be having a designated measure bag in which I put my clipboard, measuring tape, laser measurer, roll of green painter's tape, calculator, and pens and Sharpies. This worked for a while, but with also carrying a purse, I did find that I didn't like carrying 2 bags and that I occasionally left one behind. So that wasn't saving me very much time when I had to go back and pick it up. So I adapted my measure bag to be the backpack I use for my laptop. The measure items are in the front section ready to go. And the only thing I typically need to grab is the clipboard, which I find is just a little too bulky to keep in my bag all the time. But I keep that stored in the bottom section of my cubbies, so it's very quick to grab and go. Which just goes to show that sometimes when you fix what bugs you, you might need to make adjustments over time until it works best for you. My next category is design program. I realize that not everyone uses 2020 for their designs, but it's the one I use, so my examples will use this program. Now, one of the things that bugged me about 2020 was when I created a new design, I had to adjust every appliance that I was pulling in. So I prefer to use the appliance catalog when I add them to my design, since I often can't adjust the dimensions if I choose one from the cloud browser. But when I do this, they come in white, which most of my clients are not choosing presently for their appliances. And so I would have to change the attributes of each appliance to stainless steel or black stainless steel, as well as modify their dimensions. So in order to fix what was bugging me, I created a kitchen template. It started smaller with just appliances in stainless steel and black stainless steel, but I've added to it over time. So I have windows with mullions and without. I've included the cabinets I often use in my designs. So over the fridges, I added wall cabinets with the center partition and the tray dividers and end panels on either side. And I've added a wall finish cabinet bottom and a wall depth increase. I've added those mods right away. I set up an OTR microwave to the size they generally come and a standard hood fan and put cabinets over each of them. I have everything set to 90-degree overall height, but I can easily change them if my design has a different overall height. And when I realized I was selling decorative range hoods more often, I added one to my design with the top and bottom sections and columns I use on either side. So everything's set up and ready to go. I think it's pretty fun because to me it looks a bit like an appliance showroom. I have different sink cabinets, all with their sinks in place, so I don't have to take time to add them when I create a new design. So I have a base 36 full height, to which I've added the no top floor mod. And I have 2 sink base 36 cabinets. One is standard, and the other one I've added a handle on the false front for my clients who request a tilt-out sink tray, which I've also added right away as a mod. I also have one sink base cabinet drawn with the farmhouse sink and a bar sink as well. And for all of these, I've moved the label off the cabinet and placed it in front of the cabinet right away, so I don't have to do this again in my design. I have a base 24 full height hinged left cabinet where the handle is set at the top horizontally and centered, that's on the far left there, and which I use as a place filler for a panel ready dishwasher. I just find that having a template like this really helps save time in the design process. And as I've said before, I'm often adjusting things and making changes as needed. Recently, I added a couple new cabinets to my template. So one of my favorite cabinets to add to my designs is a base 9 full height with the Spice utility pullout, or as I like to call it, a spa. I love everything about this cabinet except the handle placement that it comes with in 2020, which is set horizontally across the top rail. So in my designs, I will change it so that it's vertically on one of the styles, so it looks more like a cabinet with a narrow door. I go into attributes and I click on position and I choose side, center, vertical, and then I go to dimensions and I move it to the correct position using the X and Y axes. And then the other day I thought, this takes so much time each time I want to do this. I should just add it to my template. So I did. I added a finished end on each of them right away, since 90% of the time I add them on one side of the range. And so I know which is which, I added notes to the floor plan of my template. So when I realized how happy I was with the kitchen template, I decided to create another one for my vanities, which includes the fixtures I use most often and 3 options for heights for my vanities. So I have the standard at 31 inches tall, comfort at 34.5, and the one I use often for my clients at 32 3/4, which once you add a quartz countertop comes to a 34-inch overall. I've adjusted a bank of drawers for this height as well, so that the drawer fronts are equal heights at 11 inches each. Or sorry, the bottom 2 are equal at 11 inches each. So I can use it in the design as is, but if I need a different size, say 18 inches wide, I can just replace the cabinet with a base vanity base 18D3, and the drawer heights will still be the correct height for the height of the cabinet. In this template, I've also added my overlay fillers here, reduced in width to 1 1/4 inches, and the labels moved off of them and all in the corresponding heights. And I did the same thing for my finished end panels. Using this template allows me to design bathrooms very quickly. Another way I found to be more efficient when using my design program was how I saved my files. Now, if I was working on a large project with many rooms included, I found it a little frustrating how my designs were listed in the folder. I always save my designs using the name of my client first, and then then the room it is. Then I add the date at the end so I can quickly see which design is the most current. And by the way, one little tip is that I actually create a folder within the folder for that project called old. So when I've modified a design, I can drag the older one into the old folder, so it's no longer have it among my most current designs. And it's still there should I ever need it, but it's not cluttering up my folder of my current designs. However, I found when saving them by room name, it would look like this, which bugged me because I would prefer that the kitchen come first and then the order be closer to the layout of the house. So I decided to do a quick fix, and I added a number in front of the room so I would have them in the order I wanted. Likewise, when I would save perspectives for each of my designs, I would have an order in which I preferred to sort them. So for a kitchen, for instance, I would start with a full shot of the kitchen, and then I would take a perspective from behind the island, and then a perspective of the wall on the left. So in this case, the cooktop wall.
We're having a little connection issue
Oh, okay.
with the webpage.
You don't want me to miss my nice drawings.
Yeah, we don't want to miss the. It wants me to refresh. Just refresh real quick.
It's all those simple things that just really make a difference, right? Like I was the same thing. If I would have thought of something just so simple to add the number, it would have made it so much easier.
Well, it just actually would drive me nuts because it was alphabetized. It would be that basement bar or basement bath would come in first, and then you're kind of searching down the list to find kitchen, right? So like I just kind of wanted it searched that way, and then I like having them so it's, if my kitchen's here, you should go to ensuite, main bath, and then anything else that would maybe be like library or office or whatever on the main floor first. So, okay. Should I go back to those ones or? Okay, so I'll just share. So I was just showing that this was the full shot of the kitchen, and then the perspective from behind the island, and then a perspective on the wall on the left. So this is the cooktop. And then I would move clockwise around the room, getting all the perspectives I needed, and I would save them as kitchen full, and kitchen back of island, and kitchen cooktop wall. So if I was looking at my list and needed one in particular, then obviously I would know which one it was. And if I was adding notes to the drawing, I would save it as kitchen cooktop wall notes, and so on. And consequently, in my file, seeing as these are PDFs that they're sorted alphabetically, kitchen cooktop wall is listed before kitchen full. And if I was saving them with a date like September, then now kitchen cooktop wall notes would be listed before kitchen cooktop wall. So I use a great website called ilovepdf.com to merge my PDF files into one document. And it's fantastic. I highly recommend it. But when I would drag these files into the program to merge them, I'd have to take the time to sort them into the order I wanted, which was time consuming. And I'd often miss something and I'd have to restart, which was frustrating. So I fixed this by saving the files with numbers and letters. So instead of kitchen full, it's now saved as kitchen 1A, and kitchen back of island is now saved as kitchen 1B, and kitchen cooktop wall is now kitchen 1C, and so on. And if I added notes to the drawing, I'll add an A beside the name of the drawing that it is without notes. So here would be kitchen 1CA. So now everything is saved in the order in which I would like it merged together. And I can drag them all into ilovepdf.com and click merge, and no more sorting necessary. And if you're wondering why I didn't just save them as kitchen 1, kitchen 2, kitchen 3, kitchen 3A, it's because if I do 2 different designs for the same room to present to a client, this just makes it easier to distinguish between the 2. So I added the 1 or 2 after kitchen for the version, and then I add the letters to keep them in the preferred order. So as suggested in 2-second Lean, shooting a video of your idea and sharing it can be a great way to inspire others to be more efficient. Another thing I found beneficial is just talking with other designers about shortcuts and ideas that they have that work for them. In fact, a few months ago, Jazmyn, you told me about a setting in 2020 that has saved me lots of time. I like to add dimensions to my elevations to make it clear what heights certain cabinets are and what heights from the floor they should be installed. At what height they should be installed. So I would add these in, but they came with these long extension lines, and I'd have to adjust to move them off my design. So I would have to click on each one and choose one of the lines, either left or right, and it would mess it up because it's very clearly top and bottom, not left and right. And then I'd have to drag them across and to remove them from the center of the elevation and put it to the side. And then you showed me which setting to use to make it so those lines come in short and I wouldn't have to do this anymore. And it was literally going to a box in going to my preferences and overall settings and clicking off a box beside long extension lines. And this has saved me so much time. Thanks again for sharing this with me.
I actually had a meeting with someone the other day, just helping them through some design, what product to use. And I noticed she had her long extension lines on.
Oh.
And so I was like, because we were screen sharing, like I walked her through. I'm like, can you just do this? I said, just see if you like it. And she was the same reaction as you. She was like,
so much time.
It was like such a big gasp.
Yeah. Start it up. It would. Okay, good. Do we have to review any of that, or?
Give me just a second. When it's on, that we're back, hopefully.
Because I found too, you'd save it, you'd pull it off, but then maybe it would come back up, or something would change, and then it'd be there again.
Think about when we did our CKBD drawings.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I'll try not to think about that because it was, you would save it
2
as a,
minutes.
and then when you would go back into your design, those long extension lines were there again, and it just, so we'll try not to think about that.
We're good. We're good.
Okay, good.
So lastly, we'll look at areas in which I found ways to save time using the forms we need for our clients. So some quick 2-second improvements I've made to save time has been to print out a small stack of client intake forms and substantial completion forms and store them in one of my cubbies. So when I'm having a first meeting with a client or going to their home to do a measure, I don't have to find the file on my computer and print one out. I can just quickly grab one of the forms and attach it to my clipboards I have there, and I'm good to go. So another thing I do is I save copies of my estimates and contracts with my signature added on to each option tab, so I don't have to take the time to add it in when I use one of these forms. I have also saved copies of estimates and contracts for my contractors with their contact information entered, so I don't have to retype them every time I prepare a new estimate or contract for one of them. And we use purchase order forms for making our purchases. For these, I have saved copies for regular places for which I purchase with their contact information added in already. And these I find are nice because then when I go to save it for my client, I can just actually highlight purchase order from Burnson, copy it, and then when I go to save it for my client, I can just paste it in as what the file is, and that saves time too. And when I get a newly revised calc sheet from my manager, hi Candace, I type my name in beside designer on each tab where it's required. And I know I could easily type it in each time. It would take 2 seconds, but these are 2 seconds I saved each time. So when I create estimates for my clients, I like to type out everything that's included in the designs, which means I will specify things like 3 banks of 3 drawers, 1 base pie cut corner cabinet with Super Susans, 1 base cabinet with 1 drawer and pull-out attached to door for garbage and recycling, 1 sink base cabinet with 2 full-height doors, etc. And I always like to put the 2 dashes between. I'm not sure why, but that's how I do it. So I decided to create a list of cabinet descriptions, which I've sorted into wall cabinets, tall cabinets, base, vanity cabinets, and finishing pieces, which includes my crown options, end panels, overlay fillers, matching toe kick, and the like. So it's organized in it's organized in the order in which I list cabinets in my estimates. So I have options for single cabinets and multiple ones. So when I'm creating my estimates, I can copy and paste from my list instead of typing everything out. So for my wall cabinets, I've started each line with the inch symbol, and then I can type, say, 136, and then I go and copy my line from my Word document that says inch symbol, tall, wall cabinet with 2 doors, and under cabinet strip lighting. Or I can type 3 and then copy banks of 3 drawers from my list and paste it into my estimate. And I've ended each line with those 2 dashes, so then I don't even have to type those in. I can just go one from the other. It's a way I've found that works for me to speed up the process of typing up an estimate. So last year, I was inspired by what I saw one of my coworkers do. So you might have noticed that on the notes version of my cooktop wall perspective that I shared earlier, I have a legend for the different handles I use, which I color code. So I have a different color for each different size or type of handle that I order. And when I receive the handles, I check on my purchase order form to see how many were ordered of each kind, and then I check on my install report. I'll flip through it to find the pages where I have those colors, and then I'll find what color matches those handles. And then I take a highlighter and I mark the color on the label for each handle so my installer will know which ones are which is a bit of a 2-second lean for him because I'm saving him time to have to figure that out. But this involves a lot of checking of different forms. So I was pleased to see how one of my coworkers added the different colors of pulls to the front page of her install report and then colored in each box in the Excel document the color that corresponds to that handle. So rather than flipping through the document to see which handles were which, time was saved by just looking at the front page. And taking it one step further, I added the quantities that were ordered for each handle at the end. This way, I only need to check the front page of my install report for the amounts. I find that if I realize that something I do is repeatedly taking more time than it should, I look for ways to change this. So recently, with the price increase at the end of May, our multipliers have changed for Telora and Zona Vida, and consequently have changed for our retail clients and contractors. So we have a document that lists these multipliers. So when I create a new calc sheet for a project, I have to open up this second rates sheet form as well and figure out which multiplier I should be using to price my project. The other day, I decided to create a little table on the first page of my calc sheet that includes the multipliers I would typically use more often in Zona Vida and Telora. So this way, it's there automatically when I open a new calc sheet and I don't have to open a second document. It's nothing earth-shattering, but it's a great example of fixing what bugs you and making small, consistent changes, or 2-second improvements, every day. So while there are many other examples I could share with you, I was given a 30-minute limit for today's presentation, but I'd love to answer some questions if anyone has any, or hear any other ideas that anyone might want to share.
Thanks, Leigh. I really appreciate you taking all that time. There was a lot of things I wish when I was designing that I would have thought of, but that's great. For me, with decor having such a lean culture, I actually took that into my own home. So I think about things at my own house. So it might sound kind of silly. So I have my patio doors right by my kitchen. So I have a little full height cabinet, and we all know keep all my big trays in there. But there's another shelf in there with a little spot. And it might sound silly, but I keep our sunscreen and our bug spray in there because my kids are always going through the back door to go outside, and then I can quickly grab them and spray them down on the deck, and they can go out. So for us, then sunscreen is so easy to grab, and I can make sure we're applying it rather than walking to the other end of my house.
Yes, exactly.
Same thing goes with there's 2 daily medications that are taken in our family. So rather than storing them in my vanity, we have them in the kitchen. So when the kids have their breakfast in the morning, I can just take those out in the drawer right where they eat breakfast, and it's saving time.
Mm-hmm.
So lots of little ways.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Did you do anything at your house when you designed your kitchen?
Definitely, like, and like I said, things you're moving all the time, right? So I did really try and focus on the zones when I was doing it. We just built our house renovated our home in 2020, moved into a different home and renovated it. And when I was setting things up, I wanted to keep the zones, but even I found like for where I stored my lunch bag in my old house, I used to store it over my range with my cookbooks for whatever reason. And then when we moved, I have my cookbook somewhere else, but I kept it there. But when I was making my lunches, I'd have to walk all the way around my island, grab my lunch bag, and bring it back to where had all my other stuff. And I was like, why am I doing this? So I just started storing it above the other things, and 2 seconds saved. I don't have to walk around and get it. So
It's a big encouragement to adopt it into different parts of our lives. But if anyone has any other tips and tricks, either with designing or they want to show off a project, like Leigh was saying, sharing and community with designers especially is so important. So this is just a reminder to all of the designers watching that we do have our guest blog. So if you go to our decorcabinets.com website, we have the blog portion, and you can fill out a form, and it's really, really easy, and will help generate an article for you. And it's kind of neat. So we love sharing. We love seeing other decor designers sharing their projects, and even things like this, which can be helpful to everyone else.
for sure.
So
No questions on that?
no questions. So thank you everyone for joining us today. And if you have other questions later on, feel free to send an email to us, and we can reach out and we can connect with you with the right people. Thanks for watching.